I'm going to go into some ADSB policies, this line of questioning. So, Colonel DeForest, what was the ADSB use policy for the 12th Aviation Battalion at the time of the accident?
So at the time of the accident, and this is always the case, we, our battalion's entrusted with the lives of some of our most senior leaders, so both safety and security. So applying risk management procedures at the time of the accident, we perceived the risk of security as paramount. Knowing ADSB out, what that the signals it sends out, we assessed that was a risk that could be mitigated. So the policy the day of the accident was to have ADSB out, off, anytime you are conducting anything related to the mission, i.e. flying near a mission route or location.
And what guidance did you have to develop this policy?
At the time of the accident, it was Army policy, and which we were in compliance with, in addition to the MOU between the DoD and the FAA.
Okay, thank you. And when the aircraft are operating ADSB out off, are they required to broadcast mode C, mode 3A and C?
Yes, they are.
And one part of the SOP states that the air crews are not to change transponder modes in flight. Could you explain the rationale for that?
I believe the rationale, because in the Lima model helicopter, it's several steps that you would not perform in flight.
So that's a system limitation and not necessarily a policy type of guidance?
To my understanding, yes. It's approximately 20 things you must do as an aircrew member with your heads down to make that configuration change.
Obviously, and you didn't want your air crews doing that in flight. Understood. From your knowledge on the on PAT 25's route of flight, were they utilizing mission routes or mission sites that would authorize them to use the ADSB out-off policy of the SOP?
Yes, they were.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Dressler. How does the prevalence of non-ADSB out flights impact the operation in the DCA Class B airspace?
It adds an unacceptable layer of complexity and risk to this system. So when you look at the flight profiles, and if we talk specific to night NVG operations, and we've heard how stressful and how demanding those flight regimes are, then when you are being given traffic information from ATC, which you may or may not, most likely, be unable to see, it's remarkably difficult to see an aircraft at distance, and it becomes obviously quite easy within 2 miles or a mile. So in the way that all of the civilian helicopter operators are configured, including law enforcement, is we have a traffic avoidance system. It's not TCAS, but it's TCAD, and it is ADSB dependent. So when you are scanning, goggles or no goggles, looking around your goggles, and you can or cannot identify an aircraft, your next step in your situation analysis is to scan your traffic system. Well, that's completely useless if aircraft don't show up because they're not broadcasting. So it adds an enormous risk that, in fact, having talked with other DoD units, I do believe there is a specific use case, limited specific use case, and I think that the other units that we've spoken with, which I don't think I should name publicly, but the other DoD units, with their national security mission in very specific circumstances. I think your question, I hope your question is more about the general application or lack of use of ADSB. and the user group finds that to be an enormous risk.
Thank you. How often do you observe helicopters within the DCA Class B airspace operating with ADSB out off
Every day,
every day?
including to this day.
And for those situations, what is your primary technique for avoiding that traffic?
We rely upon air traffic control for Class B separation. Primary, to repeat myself from earlier, would be see and avoid, and take whatever steps necessary to change our route, our altitude, our airspeed to avoid, and further try and emphasize on frequency, make a call that might restate that we're operational. So a law enforcement member might have notified air traffic control that they're on an orbit, on a mission orbit, and perhaps the air crew of the other aircraft, specifically DoD aircraft, may not have heard that. Maybe they were coming off of another frequency, transitioning, say, from Andrews into DCA. So my third answer to your question is we'll restate our mission profile in hopes that that other aircraft is now alerted to the fact that there's an operational aircraft in the way.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Allen. How does the prevalence of non-ADSB out flights impact air traffic operation within the DCA Class B airspace?
With our STARS radar that we use with fusion mode, the ADSB out off has no impact.
Would an air traffic controller know if an aircraft was or was not transmitting ADSB then?
No, we're not required to have that capability turned on the radar screen.
Does having aircraft with with ADSB out off, does that impact any of the ATC services that you can provide?
No.
From an ATC perspective, is there any safety or operational benefit to aircraft that are operating with ADSB out on?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, that concludes my questions.